What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek. I'm here with John, Statsational, Alessia, sports bettor extraordinaire, and we're taking a look at best bets and DFS plays for the Sunday NFL Week 3 main slate. Let's do this. All right, it's NFL Week 3, and we are coming at you with bets, with DFS plays, with everything you need. I got John Statsational, Alessia, and of course, as always, we are brought to you by DFS Army and the Sharp app. But we're also sponsored by Thrive Fantasy. We'll talk about them in a minute. John, we finally have a main slate with a lot of competitive games on it.
Well, with some games that we could possibly use as opposed to last week with all those low totals. We got some low totals here this week again, but a few more interesting matchups.
You know, what was interesting from a DFS perspective last week was seeing the return with a furious return of the QB +2 with the bring back stack that hadn't worked in milli makers and the highest level tournaments for about a year or so. They're just those kind of lineups have not been winning. And all of a sudden last week, it came back with a fury. I mean, on a game where I'm going to say it wasn't under the radar because I had Lamar as my top play on the entire slate. But I definitely think the Tua side of that game went under the radar.
Without a doubt. Tua, he surprised me. I was not a Tua guy, but it's working. Tyreek Hill making big plays. The weapons suddenly look pretty good for the Miami side. We'll have them today as one of the core four. But really interesting. Miami is now positioning itself. I mean, it's only 2 weeks in, but with my model, my rankings, they're the second best team behind Buffalo. So it's an interesting matchup this week.
Isn't that exciting? And the game total's crazy high, and I think there's a little bit of danger there. Buffalo has been elite on defense, probably the best defense in the league against pass catchers and quarterbacks. So I don't know. It feels like a little trap going on, but we're going to get that figured out. So again, what we're looking to do here on the game plan is we're taking a look at a core 4 of games to build around, not just for fantasy, but bets that we're excited about, but primarily on the fantasy side, we're picking our core 4 exciting games of the week. And then we're going to go through each game, get a little bit of betting angles, a little bit of DFS angles. We're going to get the whole main slate going. So let's get right into it with the first game, John, on our core 4. I've got the Vikings at Detroit. I'm sorry, the Lions, the Lions at the Vikings. That one carries the largest total on the slate, 53.5 points, with the Vikings installed as 6-point home favorites. Now, John, let's start with the betting angles. Vikings coming off the rough primetime slate. We knew Kirk Cousins, not the best with the light shining on him. Now he's hidden in a Monday slate at home against the Lions, ready to smash a team with a decent offense this season, but a pretty bad defense.
The offense has been surprisingly good, right? And that defense has struggled. So this should be a pretty good matchup for DFS purposes. From a betting standpoint, I don't like anything really on this game. Minnesota, you got to kind of throw that one out on Monday night a little bit because, I hate to go with the Cousins primetime sort of narrative, but man, he's been so bad on these primetime games, and they were so fired up in Philly because this team's looking like a contender. Philly on a Monday night, just really they were charged up on that game, and it just started to snowball. When Irv Smith dropped that ball, which looked like he was going to have a bomb of a touchdown, that pretty much sealed it. And they just never got back in that game. But, Hurts looked great. Anyway, in this game, we did see some sharp money coming on the under, believe it or not, on this game. But nothing for me as far as any sides that I like on it. So from a DFS standpoint, though, I think everything's in play. I think we got a lot of options here. Big game stacks as well in this one. I got to see where I'm at. I didn't look at it. I ran it before. Kirk Cousins is actually one of my top quarterbacks for the week. I think deservedly so. I think we could easily see this game run into like a quarterback +3 sort of situation in this game.
It's the highest game total on the slate for the Vikings, so we have to acknowledge that. The Vikings, though, are a team that have a pretty good running back, and there's a possibility here of a running back takeover, taking on the 32nd ranked rush defense of the Lions. So I think there's a little bit of risk in Kirk Cousins at his price point as a pocket passer. He will need to throw for 4 touchdowns in this game to cross 30 fantasy points and get us to the promised land. With Kirk, 3 of those could go to Justin Jefferson. So I don't definitely feel like I need to spread it around. The nice thing about the Vikings offense is they don't spread it around. It's pretty much just Justin Jefferson. And then I think the interesting guy is Irv Smith Jr. You mentioned him, the aforementioned Irv Smith Jr. The role picks up in week 2. He looks like a wide receiver out there. When you see him physically, he does not look like a tight end at all. He looks like a wide receiver. You're like, oh, that's the tight end. And his role picked up. So I might do like a little Cousins, Jefferson, Irv Smith type approach, which I don't think anybody would do in a game like this. As far as the Detroit side, I'm in Ross St. Brown, the sun god. My boy has an obelisk, elbow to fist, over in Egypt, waiting for him, the sun god. Wow. Through 2 weeks, this guy has been a target machine for Jared Goff and the Lions. I don't see that stopping. I don't see it stopping at all. I think it's going to be what they do. They don't have anybody else to really throw to. They will not focus TJ Hawkinson. That's not what this team is about. They don't make him the focal. And they don't even make Swift the focal point of the offense. It's really Amon-Ra. So that's the guy. He's very expensive, priced up, but I think go right back to him.
I mean, I love Amon-Ra, but be careful with Hawkinson. Should have had a better game. Just an unusual game for him with the amount of drops. He was targeted 7 times, and he dropped a good 2 or 3 balls in this game. So he's been targeted now 7 times in week 1, 7 times in week 2. Just has not clicked. I would not be surprised if we see him do a little bit better here this week. And the tight ends is just all about getting in the end zone. I mean, that's what it is. And the tight ends have been so terrible on the whole. But I do expect Hawkinson to pick it up here. So I think it's sneaky to even go with a Hawkinson and Irv Smith in this one in your stats.
No, Justin, that would be pretty crazy. The toughest position group has been running back. Last week, only one running back performed at all. Everybody was like, oh, my running back sucked. All running backs sucked last week except for Nick Chubb. It was a really weird week. I can't remember anything really ever like that. It's just very unusual. Only one running back popped off last week. You've got 2 guys in this game that are interesting between Dalvin Cook and Swift. Swift has been doing it, but he got lucky last week. Just a few touches, got one in the end zone. We have to check on the health of Swift because they definitely monitored his touches. I assume he'll be fine. He had that kind of half-ass game last week, and now they should bring him back to his full role. And with Cook, he just hasn't done it yet. He hasn't done it this season, and it feels like it's been a couple of seasons since he's had one of his big games. But you couldn't ask for a better matchup, an actual dream matchup, heavily favored at home against the worst run defense in the league. If there was ever a time, at least in tournaments, I think if there was ever a time to go back to Dalvin Cook, it's this week. Who the hell knows with the running back position what's going on out there anyway? So might as well. He's expensive, but so what? Might as well. He's not that expensive. He's cheaper than the Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey crew. So we might want to check that out.
Yeah, I worry about it a little bit just because I just think the offensive mindset has changed with Minnesota, and I don't think there's as much focus on running the ball. And in a game, if this game does become high scoring, I think it's going to be even less. He'll be even less of a factor. So I'm more focused on the wide receivers here.
I hear you, but like I said, that focus makes me even more interested, depending on the ownership. But wouldn't it be the ultimate if it was the Dalvin Cook show, and everybody's focusing on those Cousins stacks? So I'm interested in it for sure. All right, let's go to game 2 in our core 4. We've got the Chiefs at the Colts going in as 6.5-point road favorites with a 49.5-point game total. And John, how much do you think the line would be affected? We talk about lines being affected by player availability, and it's usually the quarterback position. What about Michael Pittman? I'm not. I think he probably plays and he'll be fine. Whatever. He didn't play last week, and that offense just didn't look the same without their stud wide receiver because they have no one else to throw to of note. So, how much does Michael Pittman affect the line, or is it not at all?
Yeah, I think he might be a half a point. That's about it. But that might be, to your point, that might be underselling it. So that's one of the things you have to look at as a capper is injuries, and that's a good spot to find some weakness in the market sometimes. So if you do think Pittman is worth that much, I mean, now he's going to play this week most likely, so it won't matter. But when you look at these games, if you value an injury way more than the market does, that's where you can pick up some value and make a better decision. So injury is hugely important to analyze. If you can be on top of that and get that right,
yeah. I think that went a
good line.
I think that went a long way yesterday or last week to sort of harming them. Of course, they just can't play at the Jaguars. Like the Colts, they cannot win on the road at the Jaguars. They're just not able to. But Michael Pittman out, that really didn't help them. And we saw what Jonathan Taylor's floor looks like when he's not.
Yeah.
It's ugly. It's lineup ruinous. When you pay all the way up to the Jonathan Taylor salary level and you get a dud. I mean, it is, let's destroy your lineup this week. You might as well shut it down, watch some House of the Dragon. You're not winning fantasy football that day with that lineup. So, I think we'll have a better showing from the entire Colts offense. They're at home here. And I also think the Chiefs are a little less good than what we're giving them credit for. They did not look that great to me offensively in week 2. This lack of weaponry outside of Travis Kelce. I don't know how that's going to affect them for the whole season, but it definitely, you could tell they're missing Tyreek Hill out there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit, but I'm not overly concerned about this offense. I think they're going to get it going. You've got some new pieces in there. You got Mahomes. They'll be fine. Obviously, I think bigger concern is with the Indianapolis offense, and we'll see if they can pick it up with Pittman. I mean, so far this year, we're only 2 games in. Both teams, when you look at my rankings, have been moderately good when you match up the comparison between offensive passing and each team's defensive passing. So they've both been just a little bit above average in that. So not the greatest of matchups. When I look inside the Sharp app, actually on the total, we're seeing a lot of indicators point towards the under. We've got our AI model in there actually likes this game on the under. And the way the money is coming in right now, it looks like sharp money has been coming in on the under, just a lot of money in relation to the tickets coming in on the under. So we got like 40% of tickets, but yet 94% of the money. So the tickets on the over are really small. That generally indicates that's the public, and those big ticket or big money percentages and the big cash being bet is coming in on the under here. So potential where we could see this game low scoring, and I don't really like either side. I don't particularly like the total, and maybe slightly to the under. But if it goes under, you'd have to think it's more so the Indianapolis side. Obviously, that offense has not clicked as of yet, and who knows? I mean, this could be another week where they just fall flat. I'd be a little cautious about this game.
Yeah, Colts falling down to number 21 in your power rankings, with the Chiefs falling to number 4 here after last week's showing. So, some new blood up at the top. We'll get into that as we kind of go through these breakdowns. But I want to talk real quick about the show sponsor, Thrive Fantasy. And guys, if you missed it week 1, don't miss it again. There was massive overlay in these contests. Thrive Fantasy is a prop game, so they kind of take the prop over under concept and they bring it out and turn it into a DFS GPP approach. And take a look here on screen. I'm showing Thrive, and this is their NFL Week 2 contest. It's 5,555 entrants, 125K guaranteed. Massive overlay. These contests have not been coming close to filling. And basically the way it works is you just pick a number of these props. Each one is assigned a points total. And if your if you're right, you get the points. It's that simple, right? And the best way to use this tool, let's say Josh Allen. So this one says Josh Allen over under 280 yards. So we can go to the DFS Army NFL research station. We're going to scroll over to that week's projections. It says 281 yards. It's pretty close to the total. So, in a situation like this on Thrive, I might lean towards the under because I'm getting more points, or I'll look for a different prop that looks more exciting. So that's the general idea of how I do it. I'm just going to look at some of these numbers. Stephon Diggs, 74.5 receiving yards. It's a little early to make a prediction about Diggs, but you get the idea. We're just going to scroll over, take a look at the projected stats. And basically see if we're interested in playing that player or not. So that's the general approach for Thrive Fantasy. Now, here's the special deal, and I've got a little extra in this one. Thrive is actually giving you free tickets to enter this contest for new depositors with promo code ARMY. We've got a special going with it. So basically, if you're new to Thrive, you haven't deposited there, you go over there, use promo code ARMY. If you deposit $100, they'll give you $100 deposit match, so $200 in your account, plus 2 tickets to enter these contests. That's $50 in tickets. So $100 gets you $250 worth of betting. But wait, there's more, John. If you're new to Thrive, we're going to give you a free month of DFS Army VIP and a free month of Sharp App Pro. That's another $100 worth of value. You just got to let us know. Email us. Let us know that you signed up with promo code ARMY. Email us over at DFS Army, support at DFS Army. Let us know, and we'll get you a free month of DFS Army VIP and a free month of Sharp App Pro.
Pretty sweet deal. Yeah, you can't beat that.
It's like a $50 deposit. You get like thousands of dollars worth of goodies. So easy.
Well worth. And then when you're in Sharp App, check out the top props. That'll help you make some decisions on the on there.
100%. The top props tool is the ultimate in helping make over-under decisions on props, prop games, all of that. So check out Thrive, promo code ARMY. Description, link is in the description below. You get a free month of DFS Army VIP and a free month of Sharp App Pro. New users only. What are the fine print things that you're supposed to say? I don't know. Anyway, let's get on with it. I want to speak quickly, like in the commercial, like, oh, new users need not apply.
The guy used to do the old FedEx commercials back in the
a little bit.
Talking.
Yeah, that's right. The fast talking. All right, let's move on to game number 3 of the core 4. We're talking Buffalo. We're talking Miami. We're talking 53-point total. 2 teams at the top of the power rankings. 53-point total. Buffalo's on the road as 5.5-point favorites. And I got to tell you, there's some betting. I know there's some betting angles here, John, but this feels like a little overreacty to Miami's big game at Baltimore, where Baltimore had all of their secondary hurt. And now they're going up against the Bills, the number 1 defense in the league. I like the Bills. I'm giving those points, John. What do you say?
You are not the only one. All of the squares are on the Bills right now.
You'd love to call me a square.
Well, I'm just telling you, that's where the square money's coming in. We see that on the Sharp report. Haven't seen any Sharp money yet. I don't particularly care for the game or the line, but yeah, I mean, I think that's what the market's looking at is not necessarily. I don't think the average person realizes maybe the Baltimore situation last week, but I think what they're focusing more on is just how good the Buffalo has looked, and they've been in 2 primetime games so far and looked dominant in both. I think that's what the market is looking at, and that's pretty much what all the public is seeing. So you're seeing the money really come in pretty heavily on the Buffalo side. About 80% of the tickets, 80% of the money on the Buffalo side of this game. 80% of the money's coming in on the over as well. So people like this game over. I'm a little hesitant necessarily to call this one on the over, just because of the fact that Buffalo defense, like you mentioned, I mean, this is the best defense in football. So we're going to find out really just how good Miami is. Now, Miami's been on my rankings. They're the second best team to stack. so far. Now that's just based on 2 games, right? Because they played 2 games with just kind of up and down. They're one of the best, if not, they're the best ranked offensive passing team right now. And number 2 is Buffalo. So, that's what. And from a defensive standpoint, though, Buffalo's the number 1 team against the pass right now. So it's gonna be interesting. They used to say, what was it, Gorilla Monsoon, the immovable object against the what was it?
Unstoppable
Against
force
the
against the
unstoppable force.
immovable.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we've got going on. I'm curious to see Miami. I was not high on Miami coming into the season, but thus far they've proven me wrong. But this will be a huge test. I think even if they can keep this game, if this can go down to the last possession, even if they lose it, I think that's a pretty good showing and probably an indication that Miami's going to be sticking around for most of the season. So we'll see. So just from the betting standpoint, from my end, don't really like it, but like I said, square money coming in on that Buffalo side.
Yeah, I think Miami's about to get their comeuppance going up against Buffalo. But who knows? They've been playing really, really well. The problem with Miami, they don't really have a run game, but neither does Buffalo, which is why both of those offenses are projecting as these great passing offenses. Neither team has a even acceptable run game so far this season. From a DFS angle, we saw on the Miami side that it seems to be a shift over to Raheem Mostert, or Chase Edmonds and Mostert are going to be in a weird mix.
Do we know? It's like,
No.
is this going to be a week in, week out thing? It's like, it's very frustrating.
You can't mess with these guys. You cannot mess with them. And the same thing with Buffalo. You can't mess with any of the running backs, Singletary, Moss, Singletary, and they don't care. They don't want to run it. Buffalo running backs need the full workload to even have any sort of viability. Same thing with Miami. So we take a look at the passing game. Buffalo, Stefon Diggs is the illest. His styles are played out. Like, oh my God, he had the game of the century last week, but we kind of expected that with Gabriel Davis out. If Gabriel Davis comes back and the Miami Dolphins have Xavier Howard at the outside, probably to shadow Diggs, I don't think this is going to be. Now, we have to see if the return of Gabriel Davis is an important component, but this doesn't feel like another Diggs 3 touchdown kind of a day. You never know. But that would be a big ask against an elite cornerback that Miami has in play. Beyond that, though, Josh Allen is always an exciting DFS play, fantasy play, and all of that. He's just always going to be that. He's got the 30-plus point sort of not even potential, but expected outcome most weeks. And so you just got to go right back to Josh Allen every single week and keep hammering that because it's the play and it's really good. And you know what? If in tournaments, if you want to get crazy with Tua again, chase last week's score, I don't have a problem with it. Tua only throws to the 2 guys. So as you said, it's really nice when an offense is so concentrated. That does lead to those tournament stacks really working when you're kind of confident that, hey, if Tua at least is going off for 35 plus, then we know where the football is going in this offense for the most part. We did see Mike Gesicki get a little bit involved as well last week, which was interesting after kind of no involvement week 1 and a lot of discussion about him sort of being a blocking tight end. I don't trust him yet, so I'm still on the skeptical side with Gesicki. But overall, this is an exciting game. We stay away from the running game. I'm probably not going to be primarily attacking this game in DFS this week because I never like playing the most expensive quarterback on the slate as my primary, but I have no issue with loading up on Josh Allen in the spot in all formats. But for Tua, it's going to be more of a tournament sort of, I want to see if it's contrarian. If it's not contrarian, then it's just not a play for me at all. Moving on, John, to the 4th game in the core 4. We've got this, there was, I want to just say, we had a few games to choose from. There are a bunch of other games that have exciting potential, but the one we chose is the Eagles at the Commanders. 47.5 point total, 6.5 point road favored Eagles in this one, John. And man, I'm excited for this game. Carson Wentz looking like a real NFL quarterback the first couple weeks, putting up 30s. Carson Wentz has actually outscored Jalen Hurts, I think, in week 1. So these 2 quarterbacks have both been spectacular. Both teams looking good, although I will say the Eagles kind of looking very, very good, and Washington looking like they're going to be on the Eagles' tail most of the season, chasing them for that NFC East title. Are you seeing any betting? I do like some betting angles here, but are you seeing anything here on the 6.5 point spread, that 47.5 point seemingly low total, in my opinion? What do you say?
Yeah, so I'm waiting right now. I'm hoping to get 7 and then take Washington. So I'm going to keep monitoring the situation, but I do like the Washington side. I think right now Philly is getting just a ton of public backing, similar to what we were talking about with Buffalo. You come off that game on Monday night, they look really good. A lot of momentum with Hurts. We talked about it going into the season. I liked Hurts. Philly was one of my plays here as a potential Super Bowl pick. I thought we were getting some good value, and certainly value on them to win the East, and so that's starting to look good. Now, we did see money come in on the under when the under was up at 50. It's now at 47.5. It's come down. Now, the sharps were hitting that at 50. Our model actually likes this even under more. So it's looking at 45.5. It likes a low total on this game. It does think Philly should be favored by a little bit more. So I disagree with it with the AI model on that one. As far as the cash coming in, it's pretty much it's pretty split here. A little bit more money coming in on Philly, 60-40 on the money side, but we're seeing a ton more action on the total on the under. So we're seeing 50-50 split as far as the tickets, but 80% of the money coming in on the under. So that sort of backs up what we saw in the sharp report with one of the books that we speak to, where they were seeing sharp money coming on the under of this game. So, we're a little bit of caution coming in from a DFS standpoint with everything kind of focused on the under.
Man, I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I know you liked it. You're the one who picked this for the last core 4 games, so I know you like it.
Yeah, all right. I don't care. Maybe if it was 50 when that sharp money was coming in, I would have felt differently. But at 47.5, I like the over. I like that Eagles offense to just keep scoring. And it's just about Washington keeping up. I like the new weapons on this Washington team. Curtis Samuel is the new DFS cheat code, in my opinion. He is a double digits targets, schemed close to the line of scrimmage every week kind of guy. As long as he's staying healthy, I think Curtis Samuel is probably going to lock button in for 15 fantasy points each week with the potential for popping. He's way too inexpensive on DraftKings in particular, but also FanDuel. I think he's playable on both. Loves me some Curtis Samuel, right? Terry McLaurin or Curtis Samuel? I like Curtis more. Curtis is getting 12 touches, 12 targets. Terry McLaurin, 6 or 7. So, yeah, I like that price point on Curtis Samuel on the Washington Commanders side. Antonio Gibson's one of the few. He's not a full workload guy, but he's getting a lot of touches, kind of inexpensive. Again, the running back position, really brutal, just in general on the main slate for daily fantasy purposes. So Antonio Gibson is definitely in that mix. He's getting goal line carries because they have no one else. Wait till Brian Robinson comes back. That all goes away. And then, Jahan Dotson as well. Why not? Right on the Eagles side, could we go right back to A.J. Brown? Yes, we can. That's, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts to me is the top quarterback or one of the top quarterback plays on the slate. If you can't get to Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts is a great spot. He's probably the cash quarterback this week. He's running around. Even in a blowout last week, he had 11 designed rushes. In the game before where they needed the scoring, I think he ran 17 times. That's unprecedented for a quarterback. Jalen Hurts has given us what Lamar Jackson did early in his career, what Kyler Murray was doing a couple seasons ago. He's just out there running around like a lunatic, and that just produces fantasy points. So, and now he's doing it with his arm as well. He's got those elite wide receivers, got Devonta Smith, the Slim Reaper, involved last week a little bit. And of course, A.J. Brown burned my prop play on Monday, only gets the 5 receptions. They don't need him. They don't look his way. Oh, it was like punching me in the stomach watching that whole fourth quarter with no need to throw it to Brown. Ooh, I'm still reeling off of that, but I'm going right back to A.J. Brown as well. So I really like this game. I like the Eagles. I like the Commanders. I like it to play to the over on that 47.5 point total. And I do like the Eagles to cover the 6.5-point spread. We'll see how that goes. All right. That was the core four. And as a reminder, we've got John Statsational Alessia here from the Sharp app, putting out his plays, putting out his bets every week. TikTok superstar as well. But, when you sign up for Sharp app, you get John's picks. He puts them all in the Discord there. You can follow along. You can bet along with him. You can go against him. You could fade him, do whatever you want. Just download the Sharp app and sign up. You don't even need it. It's a free app, so you can go check it out or sign up for Pro, and you can get in the Discord and get all of John's bets, get the AI model picks, all of that good stuff. Again, the prop model, the top props where you show the EV for every prop, crushed week 1. And last week, I think a little bit break even last week, but did really well on the early slate where I played it. So well done as well. Make sure to check it out. Now, continuing on, first game of the non-core four, we've got the Saints at the Panthers. Saints are 3-point road favorites. Game has a ultra low 40.5-point total. And that total says, be careful in DFS. These Saints games are really low scoring in general, and they play really elite defense. They're known as a great run-stopping team, which gives me pause about paying all the way up for Christian McCaffrey in DFS, where he's priced very high. And Christian McCaffrey just has not seen his usual volume. At running back for the Saints, we don't know what the hell's going on. Kamara could be back. I'm mildly interested in Kamara if he comes back, I would say, but not super, but mildly. I don't like guys coming off injuries. I don't know what the injury status is. Mark Ingram out there taking touches away. But do you have any betting angles for this one, John?
Yeah, I like Carolina here, plus the 3. So that's the route I'm going. The sports book, some of the info that we've gotten from the sports books, they need Carolina right now as well.
Okay.
So the money's coming in on the Saints. Understandable. I think Carolina's been better than the record shows. They probably, they could easily be 2-0. Should at least be 1-1. So I think from a Carolina standpoint, I think they're a little bit better than they have shown. So I'll take the 3 points in this game. And we are seeing money come in on the under. So, as low as this total is, money's still coming in on the under. As a matter of fact, 94% of the money's coming in on the under. And that's with a split in ticket percentage. So 50-50 on the ticket percentage, but the money coming in on the under. I just don't like this game from a DFS standpoint. Getting really worried about McCaffrey. That used to be a lock button thing. I don't think I want to touch this game in DFS. There's just nothing that's exciting me.
Not too many exciting DFS angles on a 40-pointer. But let me ask you this: all that money coming in on the under, but the split tickets. Is that an indication we should be fading? It seems like that the sharp money is on the under.
Yeah, sharp money is definitely on the under. Total. Yeah, sharp money's on the under. We have a couple of different indicators coming in that under right now is where the sharp money is at. So, boy, when you get, for DFS standpoint, you get a 40.5 total with sharps betting the under. I don't like that at all.
Do Sharp Pros, VIP Sharp subscribers, get access to all that beautiful sort of sportsbook liability data as part of the Sharp report?
Yes, you're going to see it's part of the Sharp report. We've got access to Anthony updates that. We got access to one particular sportsbook that gives us that info, and that's as good of information as you're going to get anywhere because we're literally getting it from the horse's mouth. So it's the best info out there.
Yeah, that is really, really good stuff. So let's move on. I love that, by the way. It's one of my favorite parts of the Pro subscription over at Sharp app. All right, let's move on to the second game. Not on the core four. We've got another low score between the Texans and the Bears. The Bears, oh man, they got a beating. They're coming off a beating from Monday night. Now they're 2.5-point home favorites against the Houston team that I think has been better. I think they've been decent, maybe even better than advertised, although it hasn't necessarily shown up yet in sort of the record. But I think they've been a decent team this year. It's a close spread. Chicago at home, 40.5-point total. I'm just going to start on the betting angle side with you, John. Which I have a betting angle. I like Houston here. I just haven't seen anything out of the Bears that tells me, or either of these teams that tells me either one's very good. But, the Bears offense is really sketchy. I like their running game in this one, but overall, I'm going to take some points, I think, and just kind of, I think either team can win this.
Yeah, I could totally see taking Houston. I don't have anything as far as my model telling me either side of this, so I'm going to stay away. Just using what I've seen so far, if I was playing this without any numbers, yeah, Houston looks like the right side of this game. They look to have been the better team. I don't know what's going on with Field. I mean, I think 18 total passes he's thrown on the season. It's 2 games. I know they were in a monsoon in the first game, but he threw more passes in the first game than he did second. I think he was 7 for 11 on that Sunday night game against Green Bay. I mean, at some point you got to let the kid throw the ball. I don't know what they're doing. Like, they're not. This is not a playoff team. You're trying to develop a quarterback. If he's going to play, you're not going to win this throwing the ball, 11 times a game. They're not going to win in the NFL in 2022. So you've got to let him throw. It's destroying these, Kmet and Mooney and these like guys that people were high on coming into the season. It's killed. They're just not getting any opportunities. Houston, I think Mills has looked okay, right? They've hung in there.
He didn't look. I mean, the first week I thought he looked pretty good, and Mills has looked good in games over the course of his career, and other times not so good. I thought he looked good in the first week, and then maybe not so much last week. But yeah, I think he's a competent NFL. Like, I probably have more trust in Mills than I would in like a Zach Wilson, or even
no doubt.
Yeah, even a Fields. That's what I'm saying. Like, I kind of think Mills might be better than Fields. So
yeah, we keep going to Fields just because we have the running element. So we're hoping he becomes a Jalen Hurts, and I mean, he's not even close to that yet. So we can't be playing him in DFS. But and again, from a betting standpoint, we're just seeing, as far as the money comes in, a whole lot more money coming in on the Houston side, and on the total, just about 2-to-1 split, more money coming in on the over on this game. The line had moved. It dropped down to, or the total at least dropped down to 38. Now it's back up to 40.5. So it has been getting bet up again, but it's still a low total. I can't see too many angles that you'd want to take here from a DFS standpoint.
There is one, and just that, but it's at the running back position for both teams. David Montgomery, he looked good last week, and he is the lead back for this Chicago Bears team. They're going to lean the run. That's what they're going to do. And even in this low-scoring stinker, I could see, there's not many salary saver options at the running back position in week 2 or in week 3. So David Montgomery's kind of in that, oh, wow, he's priced low. He's a workhorse. He's going to get a lot of work. They're going to lean run. And even in a shitty game with a shitty low total, the running back can produce. So David Montgomery's interesting. And I have to mention Dameon Pierce got all of the work for Houston in week 2. So after week 1, when it all went to Burkhead, they shifted to Dameon Pierce in week 2 for most of the work. And I think that's probably the right move if you're Houston. I don't know what you need a 33-year-old running back and Rex Burkhead out there. What does that do for your team? It does nothing. They might as well put the young horse in there and see what he can do. So Dameon Pierce, again, I don't love the matchup for him. I think it's pretty crappy and it's an unexciting play, but at least he's cheap. So you get that. But he's not much of a pass catcher so far in his career. So, buyer beware on both of these running backs. I would definitely lean Montgomery, though, as a very viable DFS play based on his price and just the team usage in week 3. All right,
I do like that Montgomery call.
Yeah, he looked great, by the way. He got 100 yards. I mean, even that terrible game. And
if they're not gonna throw the ball, which they've shown they haven't, they got to give it to him. And that's the one thing that I do project both sides. I have 187 projected yards running the ball. Obviously, some of that's going to be Fields as well. But yeah, I do like that call. That's the only thing. You could use the pieces to help you with some of these more expensive stacks.
Yeah, we don't want to build around a game like that.
No stack, yeah.
Yeah, you're not building around it, but you could find a one-off piece in these 40-point games. And this brings us to another, what I think, shitty 40-point game. It's a 43.5-er, Baltimore at New England. Baltimore coming out of the monster game with Miami. Oh, my gosh. How about Tua overshadowing the fact that Lamar put up 40-plus fantasy points in that game as well? Like, it's not like it wasn't just Tua out there. It was Lamar crushing it. We had Mark Andrews as a core play last week, and that really worked out nicely as well. But now you get Baltimore going to the place where fantasy points go to die. New England, a good defense, a slow-moving, run-focused offense, slow the game down, reduce the number of scores. This is not a game that bodes well for fantasy scoring, although I could see some angles with Baltimore secondary still potentially really banged up where some unexpected goodness comes out of at least the New England wide receiver group. But let's start with these betting angles. New England home 3-point underdogs. And again, I'm just going to give you the square mindset. Like, my thought is Baltimore should be way better than New England and should be, Baltimore -3. That feels like the way to go.
I am on that with you, and we are in the company of pretty much the entire public, right? So all the squares are on this game as well. The sportsbook has let us know they need New England as of right now. So I'm jumping on the square side of this game. I do like Baltimore in it. Again, from a DFS standpoint, Baltimore, I believe, has been the top. So they're the top team when I compare my offensive ratings and defensive ratings. So their defensive passing rating has been atrocious. They're the worst. But they've been one of the better offensive passing teams in the league. And then you take the New England side, and they've been the worst team to stack games against, right? So they're the best team or second best team against the pass, and they're one of the worst teams on throwing the ball. So this is another one of those. It's going to be interesting. I don't particularly think you want to be game stacking here. Potentially maybe a couple of pieces, but yeah, another game that's not going to be game stackable.
Yeah, and guys who are watching this, or ladies and gentlemen who are watching this, let us know which is your favorite game to stack up this week in daily fantasy. Which game are you looking at? Maybe ones that we're maybe not focused on. Hey, give me a surprise. Give me something that you're going to be looking to stack this week that we're not talking about. Hit us up with that in the comments section, and make sure, of course, to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So we do a ton of DFS and betting content on the DFS Army channel each week. You don't want to miss it. Hit that notification bell and you won't miss it. It's really important to have that bell rung, and it helps us too. So click that like button and hit that notification bell. All right. Yeah, as far as some DFS angles for this game, there aren't too many. I think J.K. Dobbins will be back for Baltimore. I don't trust that, and I definitely never play that style of running back against the New England defense. Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman still doing their thing. It's fine. Last week I talked about Mark Andrews' core play because Travis Kelce wasn't on the slate, so he didn't have that competition for the pay-up tight end. This week you have the competition. Kelce's on the slate. And so Andrews could have a good game. Kelce has a better game. You're toast. There's too many ways for that to go bad. It's a really tricky play. But of course, Andrews is a threat for 28 fantasy points every single week. And on the New England side, Jacoby Myers. I mean, last week with Nelson Aguilar, I'm not chasing the Nelson Aguilar, but we do have to acknowledge that Baltimore secondary seemed in disarray. Miami lit them up. So it is possible that we see a decent enough game out of a Jacoby Myers. Like in my season long, I might put Jacoby Myers in there ahead of maybe some other names that I normally sit him for. Nelson Aguilar, I'm not ready to chase that. That dude's been around forever. He had a big game last week. I'm not chasing it. So that about does it for that one for me. Next up, we've got Cincinnati, the Bengals, heading out to New York to take on our beloved New York Jets.
Well, you are beloved.
Not our? I thought you were a Jets fan.
I'm a Cowboys fan.
That's whack. There's nothing worse than a New Yorker that's a Cowboys fan.
Hey, man.
It's so lame.
I know. There's just a ton of us, though, in New York.
It's annoying. It's lame. All right, I'm not even going to acknowledge that. Bengals at the Jets, 5-point road favorites. And I have an angle for this for on the betting side here, but you've got a 45-point sort of like middling total. They don't know what to do. When they put it at 45, it's kind of like, we don't know which way this one's going. I like the Bengals. I like the Bengals here. I like the Bengals -5. I think they were embarrassed by Chicago, by Dallas, a very good defense last week. They've just been beaten up on that offensive line. They've got to get it together. This is a better team than what they've shown. Jets, allowed 3 touchdowns to Nick Chubb in week 2. Now they got Joe Mixon. Probably a big game for Joe Mixon potentially coming here. Or is this Bengals offensive line so terrible that it's going to screw them the whole year?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. This is from a sack percentage standpoint, they're the second worst team in football. And, you kind of thought they shored up the offensive line. That was really a weakness that they had. You thought that they got better with offensive line. That has not played out as of yet. Now, Dallas is pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. They could get at the quarterback, but I'm concerned here. We've seen it now. It's 2 weeks in a row where the pressure has been on Burrow. It's causing turnovers, and this Jet defense has played fairly well. Now, from the betting standpoint, the public, again, the public on the same side as you. They're taking Cincinnati on this game. The book has let us know that they need the Jets in this game. Not a shock here because this line is much lower than where it would have been had Cincinnati looked like people anticipated.
This team was in the Super Bowl against the worst team, the number 32. Like, I don't care what happened the first 2 weeks. Wipe it out of your mind. This is the Super Bowl Bengals taking on the Toilet Bowl Jets with a backup quarterback that no. I think the books are, I think the squares are correct. Bengals get it figured out.
Yeah, I mean, our model likes the Bengals as well in this game. The model's basically looking at it pretty similar to where this game was a couple of weeks ago. But the line has moved down because the Jets have looked a lot better. The Bengals have looked worse. So that's why we're getting this line. If you think these first 2 weeks we could kind of throw them out, then you're getting a great price on the Bengals. And that's really what the market is looking at. That's what the public thinks right now. They're thinking alongside of you. If this becomes a 3-week thing here where the Jets are hanging this game tight or even win it, then you really got to be concerned for Cincinnati. I think there's a lot of concern right now in Cincinnati, but this game is big. If they don't come out and look good here, they could probably kiss the season goodbye here. I mean, certainly if they lose the game, it's going to be really tough to make the playoffs. So yeah, that's pretty much where the public, where the money is. And on the total, it's a 60-40 split on the over, but we're not really getting any great information over or under on this game. Sort of like what you said, line's kind of sitting in the middle.
I feel like when they put it at 45, even the book, like no one knows.
It's an average game, right?
Yeah.
Right around 45.5, 46 is an average game. The model likes it a little bit to the under, so take that for what you will.
There we go. All right, I like it. Let's take a look at the next game. Or actually, we'll talk. I don't know if there are too many DFS and betting angles. We didn't talk about it, so I'll just briefly go through it here. But of course, the Bengals' usual suspects with Chase and Higgins, playable. I don't really want to go Joe Burrow this week, but if somebody did, I wouldn't go nuts about it. I think Joe Mixon is probably the most interesting play on the Bengals side for me. When he pops off, he wins you a Millie Maker tournament, and he's just one of those running backs that has the potential. Listen, we saw last week, all the running backs can fail in great spots. So you just got to mix them all in and hope that you get you fall on the right one, but couldn't ask for a better matchup for Joe Mixon. Favored team against sort of an opponent that potentially could roll over and die if things go a certain way. So, and even if they don't, it's an opponent that just allowed 3 touchdowns to Nick Chubb. Mixon is kind of a Chubb-like wide running back. There's no reason he can't do the same thing. On the Jet side, almost nothing is interesting here. Garrett Wilson has been popping off. I'm hesitant to chase that. They have a lot of wide receivers on the Jets. Last week was an anomaly with crazy late scoring, but there's just a lot of mouths to feed on a Jets offense, powered by Joe Flacco, that it just doesn't appeal to me. I'm going to look in different areas this week for my DFS wide receivers. All right, moving on. We've got the Raiders heading to Tennessee to take on the Titans, and the Raiders are road 2-point favorites, 45.5-point total. And John, I'm worried about the Titans this season. They just don't look that good out there. They're not looking like they did last year. They were miraculously winning all these insane games last season, just pulling through. And I don't know, that offense is just kind of fluttering without A.J. Brown, no superstar wide receiver. Treylon Burks, he's not that guy yet. And Robert Woods just does not seem over whatever injuries he had last season. So the whole the whole offense for the Titans not looking great. And when they can't play defense and run the foot and pass and throw the football or keep the game close, Derrick Henry becomes an afterthought, and that's been troubling. The Raiders side, they look pretty good this year so far, and Devontae Adams looks good on that offense. They're -2. I don't know. I'd assume the public is all over the Raiders here.
We haven't gotten a lot on this game either way. So interesting enough, as far as the public goes, and it's pretty split 50-50 on the spread on this game. And when we look at the total, though, that's where the big differential is. The under is just getting hammered. Split on the tickets, but the money coming in on the under. Let me just see where this total has moved. I assume it's come down on the total with all this money coming in. So yeah, it went up to 46.5, now back down to 45.5. Not a crazy move, but yeah, we are seeing. I don't particularly like this game at all. The model does love Vegas in this game, as you kind of pointed out. I did not have high expectations for Tennessee. I thought they were a very overrated team last year. They get the 1 seed in kind of a lucky fashion. Now they did, they had the wins. They had some really big wins that obviously got them into that 1 seed. But when you looked at them on the whole, I didn't think they were a very strong team. They were probably maybe the 3rd or 4th best team in the AFC last year, and obviously not producing. You mentioned Burks. I think Burks is going to be a pretty good player here. I like what I saw last week. Not huge numbers, didn't get in the end zone, but I like what I saw from him last week. They didn't go to Woods nearly as much as I thought they would, so you might be right there.
They focused him. They focused Burke a little bit. They definitely made an effort to get him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, yeah, from a DFS standpoint, yeah, I kind of agree with you on here. I think Derrick Henry becomes really tough here. At the prices that you're getting him at, I don't particularly like Derrick Henry in this game. So that's it from a betting standpoint. Yeah, I don't know what you like from DFS.
Yeah, when it comes down to, and I do like the Raiders. Well, they just need to win, and they're probably covering that 2-point spread. But from a DFS angle, Devontae Adams is always in play. The way they pepper him with the targets, at least the way they did week 1, I think we'll see more of that than when we saw week 2, where the disappointment happened, and the dud game, of course, is going to burn all of the that Devontae Adams chalk from last week. On the Titans side, I think Henry makes for a great tournament play. He's Derrick Henry. He has 40-point upside when things go a certain way for him. We know that he can, break a tackle and get you an 80-yard run for a touchdown, and he can do it twice in a game. I don't care how the game is going. So I think it's one of those rules of daily fantasy that you probably should have a couple shares of Derrick Henry every single week, so that you have him on those 35, 40-point weeks when they come. Derrick Henry hasn't looked any different than he normally does. The only problem with this team has been the fact that the Titans haven't been competitive enough to make him a factor. Once you're out of the game, there's no point in grinding Derrick Henry smashes up the middle 27 times a game. So, they're not doing that when they're losing the game. And I think this game looks like it'll be kept close. So it does bode well for Derrick Henry to have a better game, have one of his maybe 25, 35 pointers. So let's see if that goes down. Definitely a tournament play for me. And beyond that, of course, Devontae Adams is interesting. I will stay away from Derek Carr again, though. Derek Carr was the chalk in DFS last week. I warned everybody that this is not a quarterback that will ever win you a tournament. He's never done it before. He's just not that guy. And we were able to avoid 15% Derek Carr ownership in giant GPPs, 25+% ownership in smaller GPPs. And it really led to a lot of good things happening. So I'm willing to go right back to that fade. I don't understand why people play Derek Carr, but let's go right back to that fade from a DFS point of view. Not much else happening in this game that's going to get me particularly excited. Let's take a look at another game, and this one has a fairly high total, John, and it could have made the core 4, but it was outvoted. There's a couple other ones that have core 4 potential, but this is one of them. Jacksonville at the Chargers, coming in as road 7-point underdogs with a 47.5-point game total. Now, John, are you seeing any betting angles for this Jaguars-Chargers game?
Yeah, the Sharps love Jacksonville in this game. So the sharps are all over it. Not seeing anything really from the public on this game. I think the 7 might be a little bit too much for the public to really come in and hammer it, but sharps love it. And then when I look at the handles on this game, again, 50-50 split as far as tickets, but over 90% of the money coming in on Jacksonville. So that sort of backs up what we were getting and what we're seeing on the sharp report.
Sharp money early in the week is what you're telling me. All
Yeah.
over, getting the +7. Probably thinking that +7 will turn into 6.5 or 6 by the end of the week. Is that kind of how you see it going?
There's a good chance. Yeah, if you like the Jacksonville side, I think you have to jump on it now. I wouldn't wait for 7.5. I would agree with that. I think the only way this line goes is down, just from where we're seeing the money come in. On the total, we're seeing the favoring of the under here. So we've got about 85% of the cash. We're 50-50 on the tickets, about 85% of the cash coming in on the underside. So Jacksonville and the under. The model likes this for Jacksonville as well. So a lot pointing towards the Jacksonville side. I know the Chargers are. Now we'll see what's going on with Herbert as far as his health.
Maybe that's another thing for the early week. I think Herbert will be fine. I think Keenan Allen is a much more interesting issue, especially in terms of the DFS angles for this game. Not necessarily for the spread or any of that. I don't think that matters too much. Keenan Allen's fine, but I don't think that makes a big difference. But certainly for the DFS angles, Keenan Allen's a really important part. If I'm assuming Herbert plays. If Herbert doesn't play, and maybe that's a reason why the sharps and everybody likes Jacksonville, because Herbert might not play, but if he plays, there may be that chance of him having some injury issues. Rib issues don't help you as a quarterback. But generally, the guy I'm most excited about on the Chargers side at this point is Mike Williams. Whenever they game plan targets to Mike Williams, he smashes. This guy, I don't even understand. His career is an enigma wrapped in a puzzle. Okay, he's Mike freaking Williams, first round draft, a giant monster of a man that always gets the ball when you throw it towards him. He's a Megatron level, go up and get the football kind of a guy. I'm not going to give him quite the full status, but you understand it. When they throw to him, he catches the ball. He doesn't get the separation maybe, and I think that's been the issue with him, just like sometimes being forgotten. But when they're forced to throw it to him, Mike Williams absolutely smashes. He did it last week. I could see him doing the same again here, but only if Keenan Allen is out. When Keenan Allen's in, it becomes this GPP, like low floor situation. Austin Eckler not getting the volume this season to bring us consistent fantasy production. He did a lot of his damage last week in what I would call hurry up offense, where the running back was just getting a ton of targets. But we cannot expect that every week, especially as a home favorite, 7-point favorite. If the team is doing what the line says they think it should do, and they're playing from ahead, there'll be a little bit more of the mix of the Josh Kellys and Sony Michel's, dead-legged Sony Michel's in there, just taking some of those goal line carries. And I just don't like to see that when I pay way up for a running back on a team. Jacksonville side, I mean, Christian Kirk, we all thought he was a Jag, but my guy has been doing it this season so far. And I have to say, Trevor Lawrence looking more and more like maybe a professional NFL quarterback that will stick around for more than a year or two. So I like what I'm seeing. I like the progress. Urban Meyer tried to destroy this kid and this team in general last season with his ineffectiveness and his creepiness and his horribleness, but they seem to be turning it around in Jacksonville. So yeah, I'm with that bet. I take the +7. Jacksonville been playing it close. And don't sleep on James Robinson either. He's not one of my favorite plays of the slate, but that dude just does not quit. He really, yeah, I mean,
it's his backfield. So it's Robinson's the guy now. I mean, everyone who drafted ETN's just pissed, but it's Robinson back there.
Robinson's doing it with willpower, with sheer just gumption. I'm impressed. Like ETN by all rights should have taken this backfield. His opponent, Robinson, Achilles tear. No one comes back from that injury and is the same. And he's like, I don't give a shit. I just love it. I mean, the kid was also an undrafted free agent. Like, he's a special human being to be doing what he's doing. That's all I've got to say. Very impressed by Robinson, like as a human being. And he's an exceptional person, which is why it's hard to bank on people being exceptional. We all thought like he was going to go the route of all the Achilles tears and just never be seen or heard from again, and he is refusing. So I'm really impressed by Robinson here. All right, next up we've got the Falcons heading on the road to take on Seattle. Geno Smith and the Seahawks, 42-point total, very, very low total, and the Seahawks are 2-point home favorites. Geno Smith, not bad so far. Not good,
not great,
not bad so far.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, he's pretty much giving you what Geno's going to give you, right? So but just from a betting standpoint, the sportsbook's letting us know they need Seattle, right? So the money's coming in on the Atlanta side of this game. We did see some sharps come in on the under as well at 42.5. They took the under. When we look at the amount of money coming in, it's 90% of the cash coming in on Atlanta, which is why the sportsbook is letting us know they definitely need Seattle as of right now. I don't love anything on this game. The model does like Atlanta also. So if you want to be on the same side as pretty much everyone else and the model, then Atlanta's the side to be on. It's tough to back Seattle. I mean, they've been okay, but you look at that first game is against Denver. Denver is just, that's a mess.
They got some coaching issues over.
They've got a huge coaching issues.
Yeah.
And really Geno was, they were good in the first half, and then they did nothing in the second, literally nothing, scored no points in the second half. They were okay last week. You just can't expect much from this team. I think it's going to be one of the worst teams in the league when it's all said and done. Atlanta, I could see betting Atlanta here. I'm not going to touch this game, but if I was going to go one side or the other, I'd have to go on Atlanta.
Yeah. I know I'm a square, but I did take Atlanta and I took the points there. Seattle plays well at home, and that's fine. But in the end of the day, I actually think Atlanta's playing good football this year. Marcus Mariota's a real NFL quarterback, and he's proving that. I thought it last year, the times he filled in for Derek Carr, I thought a lot of times he looked better than Derek Carr helming the Raiders. And I was like, this kid's going to get a job, and he might pull a Ryan Tannehill and resurrect his career. He likes to run the football. We saw Mariota with no issue running for 70, I believe it was 72 yards in week 1. And I'm interested a little bit in Mariota. He's one of the lowest. He's probably he is the lowest priced viable quarterback, in my opinion, on DraftKings this week, because he runs a little bit. He's got an elite weapon in Drake London, who's emerging as, I think it's going to be a battle. This season's wide receiver rookie class is not looking too bad. Garrett Wilson's looking pretty good. Drake London's looking pretty good. There's a couple other names. Olave's out there doing his thing. So there's a few other names that are sort of getting involved at the
Burks.
Trey Burks has a chance as the season progresses to be something. And Jahan Dotson, we forget to mention, that's a first round wide receiver who is doing better than all of them, and he already has 3 or 4 touchdowns on the year. So this year's rookie wide receiver class not looking too bad, but I think Drake London is the best of them, and he's getting peppered with targets, so I don't mind Mariota to London stacks. One nice thing about the Falcons is they don't have like a traditional running back to steal touchdowns, so I think a lot of the scores will have to go through Mariota. I don't know if I can get down with Cordero Patterson. I'm not there necessarily, but I'm not against it. I'm just not there yet. And Seattle, I don't know what's going on with the running back situation. Penny, Walker, there's no clear situation. Last week, Walker got more carries coming off that spleen or hernia surgery or whatever he had. But I have no idea. I'm not touching it. I'm not going near it. DK Metcalf, could you play DK Metcalf just like to surprise the field? I think in large format GPPs, a couple percentage points, sure, but am I expecting big things from DK? Probably not. All right. Rams at the Cardinals. Another game that could have easily been on the core 4, but did not make it. Rams are 3.5-point road favorites, 48.5-point total. It's funny. A game like this, John, I feel like last year or even week 1 might have had a 53 or 54-point total. But the Cardinals offense has just looked wrong. It looks off. It just doesn't look right to me at all. Kyler Murray kind of can get it done with his scrambling and his ability to run around and make things happen a little bit, but it does not come off as an effectively run offense, or it hasn't for the first couple weeks of the season. Combine that with a Rams defense that's very, very good, and you get this sort of interesting scenario where this game that normally would have had a really high total, it's coming down. So the field is acknowledging some of these issues. Rams 3.5-point road favorites. And this is an easy bet on the Rams for me. I like the Rams side of it. I don't know what you say, John. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm on the other side of this game, so I'm not as I totally understand what you're saying about Arizona, but I don't think the Rams have looked particularly great either. I know week 1 was tough. You play Buffalo.
I mean, it's the Bills, and then they dominated week 2. I don't know what you make of it.
Well, I mean, I think Arizona here at home. I'm going to take 3.5, and I just like my model likes it. I'm just curious on the the AI model does not. So the AI model is going to agree with you. It likes the Rams in this game. It's just what I've got, what I'm looking at. I'm on the Arizona side, so I'm going to take a shot here with the 3.5. I know, sort of just looking at the games, I could totally see why that looks like too few points in this game, but it's just one of those where my model is liking Arizona, and I'm going to back it.
Looks like we're going head to head this week, Stats.
This is going to be. Did you put it in already? Yeah, I think you did.
I did put that bet in.
I put mine in as well, so I'm looking at the Sharp app, and I see us against each other on that one. So we'll see.
God, the money's pros picking against each other. That's bullshit.
Hey, listen, we can't always agree on every game, but interesting. The money is we have not seen, or we haven't gotten word yet from the sports book on any sharp money coming in on this game. But when you look at the money, almost 90% of the money coming in on the Arizona side, which is interesting. I would have expected more coming in on the Rams side. We'll see as the week goes on, but the money is coming in on the Arizona side. Now, the thing that does give me some hesitation is the line. Actually, the line has moved down. Okay, so I thought the line had moved.
You think we can get? Could we? I mean, let me ask you from a betting perspective: is this a buy a point situation? Should we just buy it down to 2.5, or no?
No, I typically don't like doing it. You're usually paying more than it's worth, than those points are worth, especially around the key numbers. I know people like to do it because they just don't like to lose.
I don't like to lose.
Right. And that's just like, so that's always the mentality of oh man, whenever I hear things, and there are guys on Sirius Radio, I listen to it all the time, the fantasy channel, and it is a dead giveaway that you are a square better when you're like, oh, I'm buying the hook because I don't want to get backdoor covered. Like, what the fuck does a backdoor, like, whenever anyone tells me I'm betting a game because I'm hoping for a backdoor cover, or I'm buying a hook because I'm hoping not, I don't know what that means. I don't know, why is it always a backdoor cover? Like if you're betting looking for backdoor covers, you're betting on the wrong fucking side. Like, you're betting because you think a team is going to win a game. Generally, even the dog, like you're betting dogs that you think have potential to win the game, unless you're betting a 10.5, 14-point dog. But for the most part, you want to bet teams that you think can potentially win a game. Whenever I hear people like, I'm protecting against a backdoor cover, well, you're pretty much a square. I don't know what you're talking about. No sharp is like, yeah, I'm buying that hook so I don't get backdoored. That's just not the way it works. So, but anyway, on the buying these points, I tend to stay away from buying points because they just they overcharge you on these points. So I just take my shot.
Yeah.
And I'm taking the dog here. So from my standpoint, I got it yesterday at 4. So I'll take the 4 points. It has moved down, which does indicate that the data that we're seeing is true here. We're seeing more money coming on Arizona. And I do agree with you. From if you just kind of look at it and you watch the games, you may be on the Rams, but I find it interesting that the line has moved from 4.5, now it's 3.5. It's kind of ticking down, and the money's coming in on Arizona.
Yeah, no, I like it. Listen, we're gonna go mano a mano here, and we'll see what happens. I like that Ram side. From a DFS angle, of course, Cooper Kupp once again the top play on this and every slate. Nothing not to like there. I do think Stafford is a playable quarterback on the slate. I do think that it's going to take 4 touchdowns for Stafford to get there, which means The problem with stacking Stafford with Cooper Kupp is it's a very expensive starting stack, and it's not like you have a lot of salary savers floating around this team, unless you want to go with Benny Skowronek, maybe at 35. It's super cheap on DraftKings. Tyler Higbee had the big week last week, but man, this guy has had a lot of years of not having big weeks, but he had the big week last week. There's no doubt about it. So
Arizona's weak against the tight end, so
yeah,
that's a good, it's a good play.
Potential there for a little Kupp. Higbee, Kupp, Skowronek. Allen Robinson's also certainly in play. They definitely made an effort last week to get him the football, threw it to him in the end zone a couple times. And Allen Robinson will have weeks where he just pops off. But I don't think they're going to happen on the same weeks where Cooper Kupp is going off. So it's probably an either or situation. And if it's Allen Robinson, it's probably not doing enough for Matthew Stafford to take it down. So, some interesting angles there from a DFS perspective. At the running back position, we saw the split start to actually really happen with Akers and Henderson. I kind of think now, after last week, it looked like Cam Akers is going to be the lead back, with Henderson kind of playing a little bit of a secondary role, or we might just get a 50-50 split each week. Either way, it's an ugly situation, and I think to stay away from until one guy emerges as a 70%er or one guy gets hurt, which will happen over the course of the season. So hold on to Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson on your fantasy bench. Don't get rid of those guys. Hold them both, but you can't really start either of them right now. On the Arizona side, listen, Marquise Brown, they're going to try to get him the football. More targets last week than week one. Still not quite connecting nicely with Kyler out there. Greg Dortch had the big week. The chalk Dortch actually paid off, which was fine. We were all over that in cash games last week. And James Conner got hurt. I don't know what his situation is for this week. He got dinged up in week 2. So we're going to have to wait and see what the story is. But if Conner was, this isn't a spot to attack. I don't attack the Rams defense really. So I'm just going to avoid it. As a matter of fact, forget everything I just said. I'm just avoiding it. I don't normally like to take teams against, and I have to say, it doesn't always work out correctly, but I don't really like to target teams against the elite Rams defense, unless it's the Bills and put a beating on the Rams, but not mediocre offenses. So I'm just probably going to avoid it. Are you playing this in DFS? You like the
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it from a game stacking standpoint. I agree with you, but like I said, you got the pieces there. I think Higbee, I think is usable. I do think, I agree with you with the backfield situation on for the Chargers. My gut's telling me that we're going to see Akers move into more of a dominant role, but again, I agree that it's really tough to
can't trust it this week.
There. Yeah,
I do think so. Yeah, I think so too. And somebody was telling me maybe it was a McVay's doghouse situation. Maybe it was that. It's not clear. We don't know. But when you have the pendulum swing back and then forth and then back, we need clarity before we can start to trust it, or we're just straight guessing. And all right, guessing is fine too, but we just have to acknowledge when we're guessing, so we know not to put too much exposure onto those guesses.
I'm worried about, like, Connor was ready to come in that game. It looked like Connor kind of quit, like he might have been banged up, and then it looked like, but he was still on the sideline. And then when the game got tight, when they were going in for the tying score, he was ready. He wanted to come in the game. And I think Kingsbury was like, well, listen, you're not coming in now that the game, like, forget it. And so I don't know.
That's a weird attitude from Kingsbury too. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, because it looked like he just kind of gave up because they were getting blown out. And I think that might be the sentiment. So we'll see this week. I mean, if that's the sentiment, maybe they're not going to even use him as much as they have in the past. If that's not the case, I think he'll be fine. Yeah, you don't want to really target against the Rams. I agree. But if he's going to play his normal role, then I think he'll be fine. But we've got a lot more, we got a few more days to wait and see what his situation is. I do think he's going to be active, but
yeah, it appears that he's going to play, but again, it's a reminder that Connor can get banged up really, really at any point in a game. And he could really burn you like that. And again, also, it's just not a game where I want to target running backs against the Rams. All right. Last game of the main slate and last game of the game plan. The Packers head out to Tampa, take on Tom Brady and the Bucs 41 points, super low total here. 41.5. The Bucs are 1.5 point home favorites. Really, really close game. Mike Evans probably not going to play in this one, which leaves the pass catching group for the Bucs dangerously low. I mean, they were dangerously low with Mike Evans, but without him, they have no tight end of note. They have hurt Leo Jones, who's always hurt and can't be trusted. Then you're talking about Gage and Bashard Perriman. This is not. This is actually reminds me of some Tom Brady offenses of the past, but in general, this is not a good scene for the Bucs. The only really quote unquote good player they have going is going to be Leonard Fournette, and it's a lot to ask one running back to sort of carry a team. I think it's a gross situation for the Bucs. And on the Packers side, I don't know how much better it is. Their team lacks wide receiver talent this season. Aaron Jones did everything last week. This is a tricky game for DFS Pro. It's gross for DFS. You don't want to touch it. Matter of fact, it's not tricky. It's a very easy stay away outside of maybe, some hopium on some of these secondary wide receivers for the Bucs. But how do you see this one going down from a betting perspective? Because I also do have a bet on this one.
I like the Green Bay side of this game.
Nice.
The model agrees with me here. Our model. This moved down. I mean, this was +3. It's been bet all the way down now, +1, 1.5, depending on where you're looking. The money for the most part is coming in on Green Bay. We got about 80% of the cash coming in on the Green Bay side. As far as the total, the under, we're getting like a 60-40 split on the tickets to the over, but 70-30 split to the under on the money. So we're seeing more money coming on the under. The only info we have from the sports book is they need the Tampa side of this game. So they're just getting a lot more cash coming in.
All the sides we're kind of on. It seems like the sports, it's that's where the money is at. That's where the public is at. It makes sense. I mean, the Bucs, as much as we love them as a team, Bucs could actually dominate this game defensively, but that doesn't normally happen against Aaron Rodgers teams. No. They're usually professionally run.
But the thing is in this game is, we're talking about the wide receivers on both teams, right? We know the situation in Green Bay, and then, you lose Evans here in Tampa. To me, though, it's the offensive lines, and I think both offensive lines have been struggling. Green Bay has been one of the more, has one of the higher sack percentages, right? Rodgers has been dealing with that, and we know that the offensive line for Tampa has not been that great this year as well. So Brady's, his sort of the thing he's always done well is he kind of reads the defense before the snap, gets rid of the ball. He's never been a very mobile guy in the first place. But the way you always have been able to beat Brady, can you get pressure with the front four? If you get pressure with the front four, you beat him. That's how the Giants were able to beat him. That's how Miami was able to beat him when they were having success against him back in those AFC East days. You had to get pressure with the front four. So that is now becoming a lot easier to do. Brady, of course, at 45 years old, a lot less mobile. So it's weird to see such a low total on a game between Brady and Rodgers, but here we are. And like you said, there's just not too many angles here that we could look at. The backfield situation in Green Bay. Jones got what he got, but I still think it's a decent split there between Jones and Dillon. And you got Lenny.
The Bucs stop the run too. They're good at that.
You don't want to go right. That's the other thing. You're 100% right. The Bucs run defense. It's been a thing for the last couple of years. It's still a thing right now. Now, the one thing with Tampa is they played Dallas, pretty strong defense. New Orleans is a good defense. Not quite the same defense that they're going to go up against with Green Bay, but I'm still not in love with this game.
For me, it's the loss of Evans that makes up for it. That is a brutal loss for this team without Godwin. Will Godwin play? I don't know. No, I don't think so. So no Evans, no Godwin. They just don't have good weapons in the passing game. You want to put Bashard Perriman out on the perimeter against Jair Alexander? I'm betting on Alexander in that matchup if that's what happens. Or Russell Gage is a perfectly acceptable sort of like chains mover, but I don't think he's helping you win the game. So when push comes to shove, I'm going to lean Packers here. I think it's not. I like the under. I even think the 41.5 we might see an under here. So I'm not looking for a lot of scoring, and this is a big time avoid in daily fantasy. if you ask me.
Yeah, almost every matchup, wide receiver, cornerback matchup on both sides just favors the defense. So I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
There we go. All right, that's going to do it for the game plan. NFL Week 3, we covered the main slate. We've got the island games being covered separately, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Check those out. Of course, John over at Sharp App will be breaking down every single island game individually from our betting angles perspective. So if you have the Sharp App, check that out. If you don't have it now, download it right now. Download it right now. And remember that if you sign up for Thrive Fantasy using promo code ARMY and you let us know it's support at DFS Army, hey, we signed up, here's a screenshot, boom, we're going to give you a free month of DFS Army and VIP and a free month of Sharp App Pro. That's $100 worth of freebies on top of the $150 worth of free stuff that Thrive gives you. That's awesome. And of course, we will be back again next week with another game plan. For John Statsational, Alessia, for myself, Kevin the Geek, Allen. We'll see you next time on the game.